Welcome to the Exceptional Sales Leader Podcast with Darren Mitchell. If you're a sales leader looking to take your leadership to a whole new level, then this is the podcast for you. We'll be exploring tips, techniques, and strategies to help you take your leadership to the exceptional level and allow you to enjoy more money, more meaning, and better sales results. Welcome back to the Exceptional Sales Leader Podcast, and it is my absolute pleasure to welcome coming in from Chicago, albeit late in the evening for him, but I do appreciate him jumping on so late. Mate, you got to say, you look remarkably fresh for 9:30 p.m. in the evening. Mr. Jason Rosado, welcome to the podcast, my friend.
Thank you, Darren. Yeah, I just came back from the gym, so feeling pretty good.
Well, there you go. Coming
Yeah,
back from the gym and you've just refreshed and mate,
yeah.
here I was saying I would try and keep this down to about an hour so you can get off and let you continue your evening. Mate, you'd be probably pumped and probably up and going for another 3 or 4 hours.
I hope not.
So welcome to the podcast. You are the founder CEO of Distinctive Coaching. You focus on small business. Love to talk about because you've worked with a lot of different small businesses over your career. And I'd love to draw out some of the lessons, particularly in the world of uncertainty that we're living in, some of the pressures that small businesses are under, which are not necessarily just, I guess, to the US market. There's probably all over the world. There's lots of macroeconomic situations affecting for small business. But mate, before we get into all that, I'd love to ask the origin story of my guests and where it all started. Did you wake up one day and say, you know what, I am going to be a business coach? Or did you fall into did you fall into what was the path? What was the evolution? How did you arrive at what you do today?
Yeah, so when I was about 5 years old, I woke up. No, I'm kidding. Um, but in a way, it was sort of that, And so here's the thing: when I'm working with clients and they want to grow their business, they want to double it, they want to triple it, they're working a lot of hours. The thing that's going to make it change for them is really focusing on their passions, focusing on the things that they love doing, putting their strengths first. And that's what happened to me. So I was in the corporate world, and my last uh, job, I was a training manager at the company I was at. Right. So I was in charge of training and development from entry level through director level. It was a small-ish business, about 120 people. Depends how
Mhm.
a lot of my clients are like 2 to 10 or 2 to 20 people. This was bigger, but still, I still, think of it as kind of a small business. It was about 120 people. And what happened, so that was in telecom. And before that, I was in financial services, also
Okay.
doing training and management. And before that, I had a restaurant. So what happened was I took some time off of university and opened a restaurant. Had that going for a couple of years. It was a second location of a place I had been working at when I was in high school, and just continued working there. And after 2 years, unfortunately we couldn't make a go of it and had to close down. But so what happened? I went back to school. I went back to university and finished up my degree. At the same time, I went back to the original location and continued being the night manager there. So then when I graduated from college, I went into the corporate world, and then I got into these leadership and training positions. And after a few years of that, I realized, I've gained all these different skills. So at that point, I helped to hire hundreds of people because I had a team of about 15 people, but also it was in a large call center, in a
Mm.
mutual fund call center. And a bunch of us helped to staff the call center continuously. So I had hired hundreds of people, and I had trained and developed dozens. Um, and then, plus the work in the restaurant world. And I was like, in the corporate environment in a cubicle. And I just said, boy, I miss working for myself. I miss controlling my own destiny and, figuring out every day what's the work that I want to do. Not what's the work that somebody else is going to tell me to do. And I thought, I noticed that all these things in all this time in training and teaching people and mentoring, it's all really transferable skills that I've
Mm.
picked up. And it's just helping people say, well, where are you now? Where do you want to go long term? Do you want to get into management? Do you want to be in more leadership? Do you want to focus on other career areas? What is it that you want? And it was during that time. So I know it's a short short question, but it's it's a little bit of a long answer. So during that time, my wife and I also met, and we had met through an online dating site. So this is back in
Okay.
2000, like before it was cool, before everybody
Yeah.
was doing it. We used to,
Before it
we would
was
go,
cool.
yeah, no, yeah, we would go out, socially, and people would ask, "Oh, how did you meet?" And I was like, "You go ahead and say it." She's like, "No, no, you go ahead and say it," because it was not cool then, but it worked. So, and we're still together, and we've been
Nice.
together 26 years. But anyway, so I was sitting there thinking, I miss working for myself. I'd really like to do that, just like in the restaurant, but not food. I'd like to just get hired by people directly and help them in whatever area, if it was career, if they were out of work, I could help them get a job, go into leadership, go into management, maybe even hire, help them date better. So, take those skills that I learned from courting
Yep.
different people, and meeting my wife and marrying her. And I thought that'd be really fun. People could just hire me directly and pay me, and I just help them whatever area of life or work they wanted help. I was like, that would be so much fun. It'd be really up my alley. Okay, and it was so amorphous, didn't really have, a name for it or what. So it was just like a fleeting thought. And I thought, okay, yeah, that'd be great. Okay, back to work.
Yep.
So then fast forward a few jobs, which I had been hired, I had been fired, I had been laid off, I had quit. So gone through all the different seasons that, you can imagine, and getting that experience. And then when my last job as training manager ended because the company was sold to a larger company, I was finding myself out of work. I was job searching, and I thought to myself as I was like, I coach my employees. So I put in coaching as a search term, and I came across coaching,
Mm.
business coaching, life coaching. And I looked into it and I was like, well, what's this? I didn't know what it was. And as I looked into it, I actually bought this recorded class where they have a master certified coach up in front teaching people who want to be coaches what it is, how it works. And it was like a half an hour long video. So I bought that and I was like, oh, this sounds interesting. And as I was watching, I was like, oh, that's it. That's an idea that was in my head, a few years ago. It's a real thing. So I decided at that point to go get trained and get certified. And because I know a lot of people can just, the thing about coaching, the coaching industry, there aren't any requirements. There's no licensing.
No.
Are certifications you can get, but nothing's required. There's there's very little oversight in it, unfortunately. So, but I wanted to make sure I was going to do it the right way. So I went and I did get certified, and I did, go through the process, and that was really eye-opening. But it was great. And again, like I said, I always work with people to put them into their strengths where they do their best work. And because I had this
Mm.
background in training and mentoring, I even used to teach music lessons, which started when I was in junior high. Started teaching music lessons, and I did that through high school. So I always had this like training, teaching kind of thing going. So it turned out to be just a really great fit, and that was 20 years ago,
Well, I
and
was going to say you've been
really
running this for
enjoying it.
20 years, right? So,
Yeah.
and 20 years working for yourself, 20 years creating your own destiny, 20 years probably utilizing all of the skill sets and experiences and knowledge you've gained over the preceding years to channel
Hmm.
into now helping over 500 plus small businesses grow, expand, scale.
Yeah.
That's got to be a pretty fulfilling role. I know I got into coaching myself for that, right? But it wasn't small business; it
Yeah.
was more corporate. You mentioned interestingly, part of your background was the restaurant. So I instantly wrote
Mhm.
down restaurant customer service because you did mention you got a
Mhm.
background in customer service, and
Yeah.
then moving into corporate, being a training manager. It's an
Yeah.
interesting, I guess, mix of skill sets. But I think if you look back now, it probably has really served you well in what you do today. Would that be something you reflect on and say, yeah, absolutely?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yes, 100%. And what was really cool is so like I said, I was in the restaurant industry. It was a total of 9 years, starting again when I was, in high school, and then picking that up through college. I went away to college, but when I would come home on breaks, I would pick up hours. I was a manager, and so I kept the relationship and I kept the work going, even though there were, months at a time break. And then, like I said, I um, actually after my third year of college, it just wasn't going well, and I couldn't focus. I didn't know what I wanted to do, so I left school
Hmm.
and I came home and I thought, I need to get a real job now. And I thought, well, let me just go back to the restaurant and pick up some hours while I figure out what I'm going to do as an adult. And so I did that. And it was at that point, the two owners came to me and said, hey, Jason, we're going to open up a second location about 20 miles from here. And you had mentioned one day that you might want to open up your own restaurant. Well, we want to run it with you, and it will be a three-way partnership. And we'll stay here and continue running this location, but you go there and run the new one,
Okay.
And I was like, yeah, great. So I did that. And just what a phenomenal experience to be in your early 20s, have your own business. You know, I didn't know that much, but like I said, I mean, I already had all the teaching background and the management at the original location. I was in Boy Scouts, I was an Eagle Scout. So I had a lot of like, leadership and service already, and that really served me well. So I forgot where we go, customer service. Um, so I did the restaurant thing, and then I finished school, went to the corporate world, and the place I went to, it was Scudder Kemper Mutual Funds. So it was an investment call center, a mutual fund call center, and they took customer service very, very seriously.
Mm.
And the cool thing was, I didn't have an econ background, I didn't have a finance background, and they hired me anyway because they're like, you have a customer service background, and that's more important than anything. And we can teach, and they did this regularly, when they were hiring entry level people into the call center. They're like, yeah, it's great if you have that finance or econ background, but if you don't, if you have a really good customer service background, that's just as valuable, maybe more so, because we can
Mm.
teach you the other stuff. And they did. And so it was like getting, it was a 7 week training program into the financial side of things. It was like getting a second major in college. It was very in depth, but a big part of that was customer service. They took it
Yeah.
very seriously. They won awards all the time. So now, not only did I have the customer service background, but I had this also, training and how to train and how to be really great myself with customer service, how to take that to the next level. So then when I went to my last position as training manager of this telecom company, I brought this big customer service background. And when I got there, I saw what kind of customer service and sales service they had. And it was interesting. There were four main departments. So it was like reservations, operations, inside sales, and outside sales. And they were all the service aspect and benchmarks and scoring and evaluation, everything was just being measured by the manager who was in that department.
Hmm.
So there wasn't anything cross company, and you couldn't measure from one department to the other, and you couldn't say how, as an entire company, how was it doing and was it growing or was it doing better, doing worse. So when I got there, I saw that and I thought, there's a huge opportunity here to put some really great customer service. And I also just saw that the people who were on the phones, honestly, the inside sales, they weren't selling as much as they could. The outside sales, to be fair, we didn't do a ton. We did a lot of training with them initially, but they were out in the field. So we didn't like monitor them and do
Yeah.
evaluations and stuff. But the inside sales we certainly did, and the operations and billing and all that. So I went to the general manager and said, hey, I come from this background and I've got all these tools and knowledge and stuff, and I think we can make things really great here. So they said, yeah, go, run with it. So I strapped the entire company's customer service in all four departments and brought in a brand new system, that I based on what I had learned elsewhere, but also kind of created a lot myself. And just doing that was so much fun because, I mean, the whole thing, with our podcast here is about influencing and
Mm.
managing and developing. And that, again, just because that's my passion area is customer service and sales service, being able to bring that in and get people on board and get them excited. And one of the big challenges I had going into this endeavor was that the managers who were already doing the customer service evaluation for their departments, I was raising the bar on their
Hmm.
reps, which means raising the bar on them, right? And I was ready for some big pushback. Like, why do we have to do this? This is stupid. Just out of fear and out of
Yeah.
like, well, if we make the benchmarks harder and the performance evaluations harder, my bonus is going to go down. So I went in that very intentionally, thinking that ahead of time and sort of knowing. So I thought to myself, okay, how am I going to make this fun for these people, for these managers, and get them on board? And so what we did is I created this monthly meeting where we all got together, and it wasn't just me and my team evaluating calls, but they got to do it also. And they got to critique, and they got to, they had a hand in the process. I mean, as one of the best ways, if you want to motivate someone and get them to up their performance and buy into what you're doing, is give them a voice in the process,
Yeah.
give them a hand in it. So that's what we did, and it worked out great. And over the course of the rollout, we raised and now I'm going back 20 years trying to remember these statistics, but I think we went from like a 35% meet expectation level to like a 68% meet expectation level, in a few months.
Which is
And
huge because not
yeah,
only does that translate to more fulfilled customers, it translates to more fulfilled people who are dealing with the customers, but it also drips through to the bottom line.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, those people feel more empowered. They feel, more in control. They feel more rewarded, more seen, more recognized. And it
Mm,
just makes them feel so much better about their daily job,
yeah.
and it's cyclical, right? They feel that way, and then they want to do even better and even better.
Totally.
So
Totally.
yeah.
And I love how you talked about customer service and sales service as well. So I come from a position, a philosophy of sales being the ultimate form of service, and it's problem solving, but it's solution creation as well for customers. In the work that you do with your clients, and I know you've worked with over 500 businesses, what are some of the challenges you see small businesses in particular having to grapple with when it comes to this thing called sales? Because I know a lot of small businesses might start with the founder and they've created the product, they've created the solution, so it's easier for them to sell it because it's their baby, and it's easy for them to actually have that conversation because they probably have a natural level of charisma and gravitas attached to them.
Yeah.
But when it comes to expanding a business and getting others on board to have the same level of passion, why do you think some businesses struggle with their sales team getting their message out and therefore leading to that underperformance where they don't have that great customer service ethos or they don't have that great customer loyalty program that's in place where customers are raving fans?
Yeah, well, what I see is you take great salespeople and then they get tired of basically, they're working for somebody else and they get tired of doing all this work but having to split all of their profit, right, with somebody else. So they decide to go and start their own shop, in whatever industry they're in. And then they are the top producer in their new agency and they have a team, but they're still the top producer. But now they're the owner, the general manager, and the top producer. And that's three full-time jobs.
Mm,
And it's too much. So the first thing that breaks down is they stop teaching and developing their team because they're just so busy and trying to keep money coming in the door
mm,
that they don't have time to focus on developing, Gets really tough. So first thing when I'm working with a client, what we do is we say, all right, it's really important to get your vision in line. What do you want your business to look like? And you don't have to be all things to all people. You don't have to do every job under the sun here, but let's focus in on what you really enjoy doing the most and what you're the best at.
yeah.
So, a lot of like a lot of times when I'm working with small business owners, first question I'll ask is, if you could wave a realistic magic wand, where would you like your business to be a year from now? What would you like that to look like? Because a lot of times they don't even stop and take, half an hour or even 15 minutes out of their busy day once a quarter or even once a year
Mm,
to put down pen to paper and say, wow, what would I look, a year from now, where would I like this to be? They'll have quarterly goals, they'll have sales goals and metrics and stuff, but not really more holistically, like what do you want this to be? How do you see yourself fitting in it? And how do you see other people fitting in it? So that's the first step is really to reduce your workload so you have that time to focus on things that you love doing the most and then focus on developing your team so they can carry the load and move
mm.
forward. So I think, that's the biggest thing.
Because it's interesting that some businesses flourish because they bring the right people in, and they
Hmm.
have the right philosophy and they're all aligned to the same vision. And then others bring people in thinking, well, I'm going to bring this person in because they've got a high performing background at this particular organization. They were number one producer, so they're going to be a great fit automatically into our business, but they don't necessarily do the cultural alignment and think, well, is this the right person for this culture? But they also, are they the right person for our customers? And am I going to enable my team or potentially disable my team by bringing this person in?
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. What most people do, and this is a big breakdown that I see also across small business leaders and corporate leaders too, is they don't necessarily know how to be a really good hirer. They don't hire well and they make lots of mistakes. And what they typically do is they say, well, I need this role filled. So let me put up a job post. I'll get resumes in, go through the resume. Who has the skills to see what I could do? And who has, like you said, the background, who's had success in the
Mm,
past? Bring that person in for an interview. Ask questions to, qualify. Yes, did they do this and can they do it? And then do I like them? And then do they agree to the pay? Which seems reasonable and logical. But to your point, you're missing a lot about the culture,
yeah,
right? That's such a huge, huge important. And I like how you broke it down too. It's not just the culture of the company, but also of the clients. That's huge. That's great. Another part that people miss. So when I'm working with small business owners and helping them to bring in the best people that they can, the wrong hiring practice will bring in the wrong hires. Even if you
yeah.
go through everything that we just said and everything looks like a match and you hire someone and it doesn't go so well. And so what I do is I work with my clients to create what we call a two-way interview.
Okay.
And that is where um, the person the candidate who's being interviewed, they are trying to get a job. So they are putting themselves, and if they're in a sales role, even more so, because they're trying to be salesperson. And what I see happens a lot with the hiring manager is they fall in love with a candidate and they will go into sales mode, trying to sell the person on the job and why it's so great to work there and why the company's so great. And what nobody's doing is saying, okay, but what if this isn't a good fit?
Yeah,
Like coming back to sales, if you are truly a good salesperson, you have to screen out the wrong clients and say,
mm,
who is this not a fit for? Who should we
totally.
not work with? And people don't do that during the interview process. They're just putting on their best, it's like going on a date. They put on their best face and they're not showing you all the boils and the pimples but you have to be really honest and really transparent. So for instance, when I'm working with clients, and I give them interview questions like, to ask the candidate, if there was any reason this position wouldn't work out for you here, what might that be? Or what would
Mm,
that be? And put them under a microscope, and
yeah,
see what they did, see what they say. There might be something in the back of their mind. And this happened to me too. I was interviewing for a position, uh, let's see, probably about 10 years ago. And even though I had my own business, it seemed like I was already very familiar with the company. I'd already done some work with them and it seemed like a no-brainer. And the CEO asked me personally to interview for the position, and it
yeah.
was a sales job. And in the back of my mind, I was thinking, yeah, I don't know if this is the right fit. But she was really excited, and she also came from a sales background. She was in the banking
Okay.
industry. I was in this would-be sales role, and plus I have my own business and have done all that. My wife was really excited about it because, as an entrepreneur, you get the ups and downs, roller coaster income. And she was like, "Oh, this would be stable and you'd be great at it." And she was really, really excited about it more
So
than
make sure
anything
you
else
go
about
for it.
it. Yeah. So, but I was sitting there in the interview thinking, I just don't know. I mean, I could do it, I'd enjoy it, but there's a couple things but she was not asking me those questions. She's like, hey, why might this not work? Because I would have been honest. And I would have said, well, because part of me wanted to. Part of me was hoping somebody would say, hey. So what ended up happening was I didn't, I actually asked her, I said, let me ask you, if this doesn't work for any reason, then what happens?
Yeah.
And she said, oh, hey, we've known each other a long time. We're still friends. It's all good. I'm like, oh, okay. So anyway, I got hired and I went to a corporate headquarters for 3 days for very in-depth training. And I left after those 3 days. I got on the plane to come home and I was like, what have I gotten myself into? This is not a good fit. It's going to be terrible for my business, which I thought I'd be able to do both at the same time. I'm not going to be happy in this position. It's just going to be a ton of stress,
Yeah.
and this is not the right thing. So I landed, I thought about it a little bit more, and I actually did a little bit of meditation on it, which is something I help my clients with too, to let go of stress and anxiety and fear so they can be really, clear and good with what they want to do. And I called her and said, you know what? I'm really sorry to have wasted your time, but this isn't going to work. And
And how did she take that?
not so great. Um, but I knew that even during the interview, I was like, this is not a good fit. I shouldn't be doing this. But it's hard. And she was so enthusiastic, and when you're wanted, it feels so good. So that's the thing. You have to have that two-way interview. You have to help people realize when it's not a good fit. You have to separate yourself from the emotion of wanting to hire somebody or wanting to hire that person to why might this go terribly wrong? How could this go
Mm,
sideways? What would be the worst case scenario here? And really have those and bring that up and ask the employee and then be really transparent about like what kind of one of the questions I love asking candidates is who's the best manager that you ever had? And they'll say, and I'll say, what made them such a great manager?
mm,
And then they'll tell you, and you say, okay, well, let me tell you about me, and compare yourself to that person. Say, I do this and this, like you said, this person does, but I don't do this and this.
yeah.
And I want you to know, like, if that's going to be a problem or if it's going to make things difficult, I want to know right now rather than I hire you and then 3 months from now, it's like, how come you're not performing? How come you're not listening to me? How come you're not doing what I tell you to do? So,
It's such an important point, and my own experience hiring sales teams and building sales teams, I've been guilty as charged many times, Jason. I've actually interviewed people where I thought, man, we get on like a house on fire, and I'm looking for ways to justify to me and the panel as to why this person is the very best fit, right?
mhm,
And there's been a number of times when that person has been given the opportunity and they've literally floundered when they started the role
yeah.
because we didn't ask those questions. We didn't conduct that two-way conversation. I didn't actually ask challenging questions, nor did I actually be fully open and transparent on what some of the foibles were of the organization because
Mm.
for whatever reason, companies almost say, yeah, we're a great place to work and, we're
Right.
fun and
Oh,
we're
yeah.
this and we're that, and thinking, well, the impression that creates of the person is, well, the grass actually is green on the other side. Well, no, it's not. But when it comes down to the actual hiring of people, I'd love to ask you about this in terms of um, the work that you do with your clients, because I'm now very firmly of the view that just experience alone doesn't cut it. But
Mhm.
what you need to start looking for are what are the specific characteristics of a person to fulfill the role requirements. Not do they have 5 years of this experience and 10 years of that experience, and did they blow their target out of the water for the last 4 years? Well, that's great, but that's only one thing.
Right.
What's your thought when you, because you've worked with so many different businesses, when you see the businesses that get it right, where they have those two-way conversations, what is it that they do about the hiring and maybe tapping into the motivation of the people coming into the organization that sets them up for sustainability? Because one of the success factors of most small businesses is the low attrition rate because people want to stick around and they want to keep being invested in the business.
Yeah. Yeah, there are so many ways. Everything you said is so important. There are so many different ways to do that. Some of the questions that you can ask are, um, and again, I would do this on a two-way version. What is it that you would like to accomplish in this role within the first 30 days? And hopefully they'll be of the mind and know and be, studied enough in interviewing to ask you the same thing. What would you like to see the person hired into this position accomplish in the first 30 days, in the first month, in the first 6 months? You really want to put down a vision and get an understanding of here's where we are right now, here's where we want to go, here are the benchmarks we want to hit as we go, and the different accomplishments that we want to achieve together and individually. That's really important. Another thing that came to mind as you're asking me the question, it's a really great question. is one of the exercises I do. I don't do it with every client because all my coaching is custom tailored. But there
Okay.
are some things I've learned and picked up in some, different exercises and stuff I do almost across the board. One of them is again to help people get really clear on what they want their business to look like, what they want their role to look like, is I we go through a thing where they create their ideal job description. And it's fun, it's creative, and we say, all right, so let's list out everything that you love doing in your business, you know, and list out everything that you hate doing in your business. And we want to create your job description from all the things that you love doing and leave as much of the other stuff, as much as possible, leave it off the table. And so, first thing I want you to do is come up with a really creative, fun title for yourself. So it doesn't have to be CEO, it doesn't have to be founder, it doesn't have to be like, sales manager, sales director. It could be like chief operating officer of bringing in tons of revenue and killing it every day or making my life awesome every day or something like that. So, just something really inspiring and fun. So that's the first thing. Second thing is write the job description.
Mm.
Write this as if you were hiring yourself from outside. As if you were going to post this online and you're looking for you to hire into this position. So you write it custom to you. And the cool thing about this is, I think when you go through this process, you learn more about what it is that you're looking for. Because if you don't know what you're looking for in yourself, in your role, it makes it hard to know what to look for in other people. So just going through this process in itself is a
Yeah.
really great learning experience for how do you write a job description? What sort of things are you looking for? And like you said, it's not just the skills, it's not just the background, it's just the personality characteristics and
Mm.
traits of that person, plus the culture, plus where do they want to go, and and the journey that they want to go through, where they are now, where they want to end up career wise, and all of that. So if you put all of that into your own job description, write it up as if again you're hiring yourself. It helps you get really focused on what you want your life, your everyday work, your everyday life to be like, and what you want it to be filled with. So it really helps you, but it also helps you to get better at internalizing how to go about hiring the people. Because once you have you in the job, all right, now you know what you're going to do, but you need the other stuff done too. So that's where you start writing the other job descriptions
Mm.
and building the organizational chart. Is what else do I need done that I'm not going to do? So when I'm working with the clients, I call it cake and cringe. That list
Okay.
of things that you love to do, that's your cake. You do it every day. You eat it for breakfast, lunch, and dinner all the time. You probably gain a ton of weight. But like that's your cake. Your cringe, obviously, is the stuff you hate. Then there's the stuff in the middle. And again, I'd say treat that mostly as cringe. If you have to do some of it, okay. But you really want to create your own job as much as possible from the
Mm.
cake stuff. And then as you're building out these other positions, same thing. You want to go through and you want to hire people. You have this cake list, and then hire the people who really loves all those things. And if there are areas that maybe they don't love so much, you have to get a feeling for that because they're going to, again, putting on their best face. Oh, yeah, I'd love that. I'd do it. No problem. And they're like, God, I hate that. So you have to have those, you have to have some questions ready to really dish out what's the stuff that they're not so great at, they don't love doing the most. Maybe
Mm.
even ask them a question like, if you could recreate this job, and I'm just making this up on the fly. I never thought of this one, but I think I might use it going forward. If you could, based on everything that you know of this position, if you could come up with like only three things that you would do in this position, and that would be your entire job description, what would those be?
Mm.
And
Great
see what they
question.
say. Yeah, stuff like that. So I do think it's important to have a standardized list of questions that you have to ask every candidate because you have to compare apples to apples. And if you start
Yeah.
going off script, you get different stuff, and then you're like, oh, I don't know how to compare that to this other candidate. And for compliance and for legal reasons, you have to really ask everybody the same questions. But you also have to be a little bit flexible and creative in the moment and try to really
Mm.
dig out, is this going to be the best candidate? Is it the best match? Are they going to get along the best, and have the best results?
It's amazing you talk about that because my experience with the vast majority of sales leaders and people that are hiring never do that at all. They simply describe what you did earlier and said, I've got this role that I need to fill. I'm going to go to the market. I'm going to write a job description, and then I'm going to look at resumes and make decisions on shortlisted candidates to have a conversation based on the responses to those to the response to that job description. But pretty much look at the surface level achievements um, of their performance. Because even AI today, I was talking to a few people the other day, and they were saying AI is being used in some companies to do the shortlisting process. But the
Mm,
person who's actually setting the parameters, they're only looking at, does this person meet this performance criteria? Does this person have tenure at a certain company? And we're not going to talk about anybody if they don't meet that criteria. And so what you've just described is thinking about what the ideal role looks like. What am I doing on a daily basis? What do you love about your day? What are the cake stuff? What are the cringe stuff? That starts to go straight to the heart of what motivates an individual, because that's what you really need to understand. What motivates people to do what they do?
right.
And how many times do you hear people ask the question, so what motivated you to come to this interview? What motivated you to actually apply for this role? It's a great
Yeah.
question, but I don't think many people ask the question.
No, no, they don't, and they should. I mean, even so, going back to the client selection process, you're trying to filter in the right people, filter out the wrong people. Sometimes I will ask clients, potential clients, what was it that made you decide to invest this time today? Exactly what you just said.
Mm,
And I'll ask them that because
mm,
again, I want to know what brought them here, not just okay, they want to grow their business, but beyond that, what are the deep wants, deep desires, and the deep challenges that they're facing? And are we even going to spend the next, like I said, 60 or 90 minutes together? Does that even make sense?
mm,
Before we go too far. Like, because if it's not the right match, if they're looking for something that I don't do, I want to know that right up front. And because, I'm all about executive time management as a small business owner and making sure you're focused. And I don't want to waste their time and I don't want to waste my time, honestly.
Well, I think it's a really important point, and I know we're sort of harping on it, but I think particularly when it comes to small business, and so in Australia in particular, small business is the lifeblood of the economy, right? We've got some big
Mm,
organizations, big corporates, but it's probably the same in the United States as well. The number of small businesses, in terms of their the people, the sheer number of people they employ,
mhm,
outweighs the big corporates, right? So the big corporates get all the accolades, get all the marketing and all the highlight stuff, but the essence of the economy in both countries is run by people who run small businesses,
right.
which means things like motivation and why people do what they do is such a pivotal thing. And hiring people, we've got to make sure the hiring process is rigid enough that we are giving us every opportunity of getting good people in that are going to increase the capability of the company, not cause dysfunction within the company. Um,
Yeah.
one of the things I know that a lot of small businesses have to do is, particularly as they move from a founder into a scaling process, is hire salespeople. And I love your thoughts on the experiences you've had working with your clients over the perception that founders might have, or hiring managers might have, in some cases, sales leaders might have, about hiring salespeople where they believe that motivation is all driven by money.
Oh boy. I can tell, obviously you're very experienced because yeah.
And this is, for
So,
people listening, this is not a loaded question, but
yeah, right. No, but it's a really, really important one. There are so many different motivational factors, and every individual is different. Typical salespeople are motivated by money. There's no getting around that. But within that, there's still some people are motivated by recognition, some, by perks. More often than not, the number one predictor of job satisfaction is actually it's not the salary you make. It's not even usually what you do day to day in your job. It's your relationship with your manager,
mm,
right? So that's huge. And how are you going to have a good relationship with your sales staff? Well, you need to talk with them. You need to understand who they are. You need to understand what their challenges are on a daily basis on a personal level. Not just what are the challenges, how come, you only spoke with 40 people last week,
yeah,
It's like what's going on at home? How's
yeah,
life?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. How are you filling yourself up? How are you educating yourself? How are you, getting better at what you do? How can I help you? What can I support? What support
Mm,
can I give you?
mm,
All of that. So the number one predictor of job satisfaction is often the relationship you have with your manager. And if that's not a good relationship, you're going to be hard pressed to perform. And if you're not, if you are a stellar performer, you're probably going to get burned out.
mm.
But one way or another, you're probably not going to last that long. So it's yeah, it's vital for people to know. So one thing that I did when I was in the corporate world, and I work with small business owners to do this, is as you're creating business goals, job performance goals, and evaluation, I say, okay, here's what I need you to do, in this role. And here are the benchmarks, and here's the performance that you need to do. What do you want to do? Where do you want to go with your
Mm.
career? And I give them permission to say, you know what? I don't want them to be a yes person. I don't want them to say, oh, I want to stay here. I want to work with you forever. I want to be your underling as long as possible. No, like tell me, be really honest. Where do you want to go? Do you want to replace me? That's fine.
Yeah.
Do you want to leave and open up your own thing? That's fine. And whatever it is, I want to help you do it. So here's again what I need you to do to be successful in this role. But let's see what you want. What do you want? And then, help them with those areas. And then when I'm creating the goals for the person, what we do is see where those two overlap.
Yeah.
And so we focus a lot on A, a fair amount on B, but a ton on C. Where's
Yeah.
that overlap? Because if I can get them to do what I need to do while I'm helping them get what they want, yes, I am giving them the ability, broadening their experience and giving them the ability to leave and walk out or get hired away from me.
Yeah.
But the likelihood of that happening goes way down.
Mm,
Even though they have the ability, they have the skills, they could get hired now in a heartbeat from somebody else because I've done such a great job training and developing them, nurturing them, that they see that and they know and they like the dynamic and they're getting whatever motivates them, right?
mm,
So if it is recognition or perks or extra vacation time or casual Fridays, they get to come in, in jeans or whatever, like most people do it now anyway. But uh, whatever it is, working from home, working flex hours, um, having family time, giving them tickets, for their family to go to a show,
mm.
uh, things like that. Yeah, it's not just incentives. It's not just bigger bonuses. Um, those matter, but in the end, it's how you treat the people
Yeah.
that matters the most. And the best way to
Yeah.
do it is to get to know them and give them what they want.
Well, it's so true. And there's research that's been repeated, I reckon, over the last 20, 25 years, where it says over and over and over again that people don't leave companies, they leave managers. They leave their one-up manager or their two-up manager. And that's the reason. And the reason for that
Oh
is
yeah,
the managers haven't done any of what you've just described. Um,
right.
And Jason, I'm still staggered. The companies that I go into when I'm facilitating, and I'll ask leaders this question, and it's not a question that's designed to challenge them or tell them they're doing the wrong thing. It's just a curiosity-based question. And it's as simple as, do you know why the people in your care, as in direct reports, come to work every single day and why they choose this company?
Yep.
And I am blown away by the crickets that I get because very few of them have actually asked that question. And then we talk about why that is. And often it's because, well, I want to keep work and home separate. I don't want to be prying. I said, when you hire somebody, you're not hiring a salesperson. You are hiring a human being who happens to perform sales. You need to understand what makes this person tick. And I always refer back to this guy called John Maxwell, who has written more books than anybody
Hmm.
alive or dead on the thing of leadership. And he
Yeah.
says three things that your team are always asking. One, do you care about me as a human being? Number one.
Hmm.
In order to do that, you've got to show an interest in them. Number two, can you help me? And number three, can I trust you? But I can only be trusted if I can demonstrate that I'm a person of servitude, and I can only do that if I'm generally interested in the person and I do care about them. So what motivates you? It's it's
100%.
so it's so basic, and I just wanted to ask that from you because
Yeah. Yeah.
I am blown away by the number of people that don't know much about their direct reports, much about their team, and they wonder why they're not performing. And it's almost for some of them, it's almost got to the point where I haven't asked these questions. They've been with me now for, I don't know, 5 months or in some cases a year. It's probably too late for me to now start asking these questions because it feels uncomfortable. Well, no, do it anyway.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And there's, there's three steps to that. One is what you just said. They don't ask at all. Second is they ask, but they don't really take the answers to heart. It's just like, oh, I'm supposed to do this because, I was listening to this podcast and they said I'm supposed to ask these questions. And then the third one is they ask to get the answers and then they reflect on it and say, okay, how would I want to be treated if I was this person with these values,
Mm,
with these things that they want, right? So, for instance, one of my clients, Adam, who owns an insurance agency, he came to me when he had been in business for a year and we were actually at a networking event and we sat down next to each other. He said, "What do you do?" And I said, "Well, I help small business owners, service-based, to double, triple their business and cut their work hours in half. And, so they could spend more time with their family." He was like, "All right, we got to talk." I said, "Well, what makes you say that?" Great magic phrase, by the way.
yeah,
Anytime that says we need to talk or I've got questions, I wish I had met you a year ago. You say, "What makes you say that?" If somebody even says, "Oh, can I have your card?" You don't say, "Yeah, sure, here it is." You say, "Why do you ask?"
yeah.
Right? Anyway, so I said to Adam, "Well, what makes you say that?" And he said, "Well, I'm in business. I've been in business for a year. Before that, I was a top producer at the agency where I worked for somebody else. Decided to open up my own thing. And I have a high employee turnover problem, and the business is not growing." And I said, "Oh, wow. Okay. Well, when you say high turnover, what do you mean?" He said, "Well, over the past year, I've had 14 people." I'm like,
Mm.
"Oh, okay. Well, that could be for how many positions?" He said, "Three." I was like, "Oh,
Whoa,
wow.
14 people for three positions.
Yeah, 14. Yeah, for three positions."
Wow.
And I said, okay." So what we did, so we started working together. And first thing we did was, like I said before, okay, what's your vision? You said you're the top salesperson right now, and you're doing a ton of hiring and a ton of HR work. You've got to be just, he said, no. He said, what I want is I want to work a lot less hours. I want to spend more time with my kids and my wife. I do want the company to grow. I want to have dedicated, high performing people who can carry the business. And I want to build a legacy. I want to get in my car every morning on the way to work and know that I'm going there because I'm going there to serve my staff. And I'm helping them build something for their families. And I'm helping my clients to secure their futures, and take care of
Mm.
them. And I'm building a business that then I can pass on to my kids. I want to build a legacy. And I was like, great. So what are you doing now? He's like, I had none of that. So we went through the hiring process of, a lot of what we talked and even more,
Yep.
and got him to focus in. So we stopped the turnover. He focused in, like I said, he had three positions. He focused on two. There was one person who he had who was really good, but he was not developing that person. So we worked on how do you develop this person and what we just said, asking those questions and
Mm.
then thinking, all right, so now I know those answers. So what? What am I
Mm.
going to do with that? Well, you know, you have to treat the person how you want to be treated if that were you. Okay, so they don't want to work on certain days, so they don't want to work certain hours, or they want to, be let off an hour early on Wednesday so they can go pick up their kid, or that makes a huge difference. Okay, even if you say, "I still need you to work the number of hours. I want you to come in an hour earlier that day. Can you do that?" Well, wait, yeah, it means I could leave at 3 instead of 4. Yeah, I'm in, yeah, I'm here. I'm in. Great. Okay, perfect. So he did that. This also freed up so much of his time because now he was able to nurture these people and grow them that he decided he wanted to start a book club in his office. And of course, he was like having all these sales books that he was having his team read. We talked about that too. I was like, now wait a second. You're a fan of book clubs and you love reading and personal growth. Are they a fan of book clubs and reading and personal growth? Is this something
Yeah.
they want to be doing? I'm like, you can't make this mandatory, because you might turn them off and you're
Yeah.
you're going to do more harm. So have conversations with them. Is it something they will be interested in? Should it be during company time? Should it be during off time? Let them have a say in how this is organized. Let them run it.
Yeah.
So we did all that. Um, what ended up happening was after 4 months, the thing that surprised him the most is that he was no longer the top producer in his business. And that blew his mind because he figured I'm always going to be the top producer. That's just, I'm good at this and I enjoy it. But now he was spending the bulk of his time coaching his reps to build business instead of him going out and building the business himself. So that was huge. He also grew his revenue in those 4 months. He grew by 35%,
Mm.
which was pretty good. And again, when he told me, I was like, all right, that's fair because most of my clients double their revenue within 12 months. Some triple, some double or triple even faster, 6 months, some even in 3 months. But to hear you say that you're on par, you're on target to hit double in 12 months makes sense. And actually, what ended up happening is he doubled it a lot faster because as you grow, as you know, it's a U-shaped curve.
Yeah.
It's not a straight line because you learn, you learn, you learn, you get better, and then it grows
Yeah.
exponentially. Yeah. So, that's a really common thing. I forgot exactly
Brilliant.
what your question was, but
No, it all comes down to the motivation and what makes people tick
yeah,
and knowing your people
right.
because you're not leading salespeople, you're not leading customer service agents, you're not leading heads of finance, you're leading human beings who happen to perform those roles. And if you don't know what makes those people tick, it's very, very difficult to remind them as to why they do what they do, particularly when things are not going great. So it's the intrinsic motivation. And as I'm talking, it just sounds so basic, foundational 101, but it's amazing how many people don't do it. And they think that the external, particularly for sales teams, the external competition, the additional bonuses, or the percentage uplift on commissions, or the kickers you,
Oh
you
yeah.
might do is going to motivate them, but
Oh
it
yeah.
doesn't.
Managers and owners get so bogged down in that, and someone else is giving a 0.5% override on this, and I can't match it. I'm like, yeah, so what? Be a good person. Be a good person to your team. They're gonna love you.
They
Help them
will.
exceed. Help them excel. They'll stay. They
They
will.
will. They will.
Yeah.
And if they happen to leave, you know what? If you're a good person and help them through that process, they're likely to come back or refer somebody to come back. So
100%.
keep doing it. Keep doing it.
Yeah.
Hey mate,
Yeah.
it's been a great conversation. I am conscious of time because it's nearly well, even though you have been to the gym, it's
Yeah.
still getting there. For people listening to this who'd like to connect with you, Jason, and learn more about what you do, where's the best place for them to connect?
Yeah, great. Well, actually, let me ask you this. Is it okay if I give the listeners a gift?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, great.
People love
So,
people love freebies.
love freebies? All right. Well, this is a $500 freebie.
Okay.
So, that's US. I don't know what the conversion is in other parts of the world, but
It's
um,
about $750 in Australia. That's what that's worth.
okay. Awesome. Yeah. So when I'm working with somebody who is interested in being a client, I make them go through a one-time coaching session because again, I want to filter in the right clients, filter out the wrong ones. I don't want to be, a disservice to anyone. They come in, it's not the right program for them. It doesn't do any good, right? It
Yeah.
doesn't help me, it doesn't help them. So I like to do a one-time coaching session. Normally I charge $500 for that. And for the listeners, I want to go ahead and waive that fee.
Okay.
Um, so now I know there are a lot more listeners. So this is first come, first serve because there's a lot of you and only one of me. But um, how we'll do this is what we do during this coaching session is we take a look at where your business is now. So we build out that vision, like I mentioned, where you want to be a year from now, what the income is, the revenue model, your ideal job, what other people are doing, your perfect support team. We'll also take a look at the challenges and uncover the hidden blind spots that might be slowing you down or sabotaging your efforts to get there. And then through that process, we'll come up with a really motivating and energizing three-stage plan for you to move forward over the coming year to achieve your goals faster than you thought possible. And at the end of the session, if it sounds like you might want to work with me longer term, and if I see that there's a really great fit to work together, I'll ask you if you'd like to talk about the options of that. If you don't want to, or I don't think it's a good fit, then we won't, and I'll try to give you
Yeah.
some other resources.
Yeah.
But so if you want to do that, take me up on this session. Like I said, it's first come, first serve. Go to my website and click on the book a call button. It's right on the homepage. And what that will do is it will direct you to a 30-minute slot on my calendar. When you get to that slot, it'll ask you, how'd you hear about us?
Yeah.
And put in Darren podcast.
Okay.
And that way we'll know you're friends of the podcast. and then I'll go ahead and waive the fee. We'll actually, when we get together on that call, we'll just have like a 10 to 15-minute chat just to make sure this session will be a good use for you and a good use for me. Because again, I'm
Yeah,
looking for clients right now too. And when again, if I usually don't have clients or when I don't have clients, then this is a $500 session. But right now, I'll waive that. And if it is a good fit and it sounds like this session will help you a lot, then we'll go ahead and schedule it. And then that will be a longer call, right?
cool.
So this first one is just, 10 to 15 minutes to get to know each other and see if this will help you. Where it says, how'd you hear about us? Put in Darren podcast,
Yep,
and I'll go ahead and waive the $500 fee. And so this is
awesome.
for people who want to grow their business. They want to scale. They want to get out of overwhelm. They want to know how to create really great sales and service and operational staff, basically all the areas that you don't want to do, or you just want to multiply yourself because you love doing it. And you want even more people to do it and love what they
Yep,
do. Yeah.
perfect. Awesome, mate. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
That's a great offer. Very noble of you. Thank you. I'll put that in the show notes.
Okay.
Where else can they connect you? What's I better ask you. No, I can get the website from you, but here's a chance for you to plug your own website. What's
Oh,
the
did I not say it? I meant to
URL?
say it. Yeah, it's distinctivecoaching.com.
Perfect.
Thanks for the prompt. I thought I had said that earlier. Okay. Yeah,
Um,
distinctivecoaching.com.
I was just going to say, just go to my website. Yeah, everyone
Go
knows
on my
me.
website. Go on any
Just by
website.
osmosis. Come on. And if
Hey,
it's all right
Jason
with
sent me.
no, that's cool, mate. And if it's all right, I'll also put your LinkedIn handle on there as well, so people connect on LinkedIn also.
Yeah, sounds great.
Brilliant, mate.
Love
Thank
it.
you so much. Hey, great
Thank you.
conversation. Keep up the great work. And
Thank you,
yeah,
Darren.
I
Likewise.
encourage people to take up that great generous offer. So thanks for being a guest and all the best in your continual expansion, working with more and more businesses around US and hopefully around the world.
Absolutely. Thank you, Darren.
Cheers, mate. Thank you for listening to the Exceptional Sales Leader podcast. I trust the information in this episode has been helpful in your journey towards becoming exceptional. And remember, please take the time to rate the show, subscribe to the show so other people can find it. But also, if I can help you, jump on my calendar, go to leadwithdarren.com and let's have a conversation about how I can help you along your journey to being exceptional.